Hey everyone, this is Devin Moreno, and I am back, finally posting a video after 2 months. A lot has been going on, and I'm going to talk to you about it. We're talking about lawsuits, evictions, buying houses is in a total frenzy right now, and of course, renovations are a little bit harder with materials and all that. We're going to get all into it in this video, but however, just so you all know, I am doing just fine myself. I'm doing okay, even despite all of these things. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm an investor in Baltimore City. My name is Devin Moreno, and I essentially have 6 houses that I own, and I manage 11 more. So throughout this entire pandemic, I haven't grown as much as I wanted to, and I'll also get into that as well. I've put in offers on lots and lots of houses. It's been quite difficult to get really good deals as an investor. Homeowners are doing great though. So let's go ahead and talk about it. How have I been infected during this pandemic? So the first thing I want to definitely talk about is the tenant aspect. A lot of people are very curious about that. So I have over 20 tenants because a lot of my houses are rooming houses. So therefore I have like 4 to 5 people in a single home. So overall, I actually got pretty lucky, I'd say. Of all 20 tenants, I have 5 that could not pay rent. And I posted a video a while back kind of talking about the different strategies that I was going to take in order to deal with, people who couldn't pay rent. Obviously, there's a fine line between forgiving and maybe giving rent free, which is what a lot of tenants wanted, and then encouraging people to just not try and not pay rent at all. And I dealt with a myriad of that. So there was one tenant that I did give free rent to just for an entire month of April, and then May gave him half rent free, and that, it worked out just fine. They were pretty much holding out until a few months, like about last month, when once again they were having trouble with this. They were still getting unemployment, but unemployment decreased in the amount that it was offering to tenants. So they were struggling a little bit more now, and so now I'm just kind of working with them. Obviously, with this election, I'm posting this video probably just before the election results are in. As of my last looking at it, here November 5th at 11:06 a.m., Biden's in the lead, but not yet a clear winner. He hasn't been declared the winner yet. So obviously, I don't know going forward what that'll actually mean as far as all these lockdowns and everything, but and we can speculate on that in another video, but essentially I'm just saying, all right, we're in a holding status right now. Just pay what you can, and we'll put all the rest in a pot. For those who have been taking that option for a while, I actually have another tenant whom couldn't pay, was on and off all over the place, and then finally they got an opportunity to get a job in New York. I thought this was a win-win opportunity, and I'm like, you know what? Tell you what, I'll forgive, this is me managing for another person, but, will, I guess, me as property manager and the owner will forgive all the rent that was due if you can go ahead and take that job and move to New York. And it was a really lucrative job, worth moving from Baltimore to New York for. The person was really excited about it, really excited that, all the debt was going to be forgiven, and it just was a win-win for everybody. So some situations worked out like that. So, and then, of course, I had one tenant of them, of the 5 whom, basically, she just decided, screw it, I'm not going to pay because I don't have to, and there's nothing you can do about it. What a lot of tenants don't realize during this time is that the rent's still due, and so in this case, I felt, there's an old saying where, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? The right move is just to incentivize her in any way to get out of the house. And I did that, offering her lots of money to get out, pretty much stopping with a lot of maintenance requests unless it was life-threatening, pretty much encouraging in every way possible. Like, I even offered to pay her to move and help her with the moving expense. Nope, she wanted a free house. That was how she was going to operate. She has not paid a dime since this whole thing started. And this is a person I was already trying to get out of the house anyway. This is my only eviction. I posted an eviction video before where I talked about the eviction process, and she's pretty much the exact same person. She just managed to stay in the house because of this pandemic. She's holding a hostage. This was not unexpected. As soon as April 1st hit, I'm like, I'm definitely not going to get any rent money, and that's what happened. So in this case, I've decided, this is a person where I really want to make an example of, and I'm like, let's go ahead and just sue this person. So that way, all of their evidence, everything about them shows up on their credit report. It'll show up in collections. It'll show up in the Maryland Judiciary Court Search System. And that way, other landlords can be warned, hey, this person is someone who did scam a landlord during these times. So that's pretty much how I'm handling the whole tenant situation. That's now I've converted from do you want to be rich, which is the smart option is just do everything possible to get them out, to do you want to be right? And here I've chosen kind of a different moral high ground, I guess you can say. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how the tenant side of things has been going. Now, as far as my investments, I've actually made a bunch of offers this year on fantastic deals. There was an 8-unit portfolio that I lost. There was another house that I lost. It was going to be basically a mansion rooming house that I was going to do, and we were going to convert it to a rooming house using the networking basically that my mentor has to get legal status as a rooming house. And then we had another house in Upper Fells, the high-end area in Baltimore City that, once again, this is when the pandemic hit and all the interest rates moved to lower percentages. What happened when that happened was that homeowners started buying up houses in a frenzy and refinancing in a frenzy. So title companies were way overwhelmed and the market went nuts. Everything's going over asking price. I'm not even kidding. I have now put offers on houses where it's 15 to 20K over asking price, all cash, no contingencies, and I still have lost some of these deals. I just ended up buying a house. There was actually a triplex that I talked about in a previous video that unfortunately fell through because there were liens on the property that the owner didn't want to take care of. But I have another one in East Baltimore that you'll be seeing videos on. This is a cosmetic renovation, and even that one I had to put 15K over asking, but it was still a fantastic deal because the house as it is now, selling for 90, we had to buy it for basically 105. And even at that price, the ARV after this is all the renovations are done, the renovations will probably cost me like 50K. And after it's all done, its appraisal is like 250K. So there's a ton of wiggle room here. So it was a great deal, fantastic buy. And the best part is all property values, because of this interest rate hike, are all going up. I mean, basically what you're seeing right now is the precursor to stuff going up in the future. Like I said, we're not going to talk about is there going to be a housing crash. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but I can give you my predictions. Long story short, I don't think so. I know popular YouTubers like Meet Kevin have predicted a housing crash, but I'm not agreeing with all his statements, and I'll get into that in a future video. But essentially, this pandemic should have been a buying frenzy for me. I should have been buying lots of stuff, but everything keeps falling through because, the offers on these houses are completely ridiculous. So now, one thing that got me through this pandemic that I encourage a lot of you to do is the refinances. See, there's two things about refinances. The obvious one is the rate and term refinance. You can lower your interest rate. This has done wonders on my properties, dropping from 4% or even as high as 6% down to like as low as like 3, and basically 4% is dropping to 2.3%, and then my 6% is dropping to like 4.8s or 4.5s. Investment properties are done a little bit differently than some other versions of my properties that I have. So rate and term refinances has been wonderful. But another thing, unique benefit that they come with is that they actually kick your mortgage payments back a month, and sometimes 2, depending on the timing of it. So like if you ever do a rate and term refinance, then they actually bake into the loan the next month's payment. Now, because you're not paying the mortgage, because the tenants are paying the mortgage, you don't have to really worry about that. See, normally, you wouldn't want to pay interest on that, but it's okay in this instance. And then essentially, you don't need to pay next month's mortgage payment. So I actually did that across all my houses. And in one case did it to 2 houses, which is a little bad somewhat. It's called churning the loan, but it really wasn't that in this case. I just did it once in the beginning of the pandemic and once now, pretty much now. The rates just kept falling. But because I kept refinancing all my houses, I accumulated quite a bit of money that was able to float me during certain times of the pandemic. So I've been totally fine, because remember, you're still getting the rent payments. So, in this situation, that's something for you new landlords out there. If you have the opportunity to refinance, I certainly would. Also, just so you know, Fannie Freddie is putting a penalty on refinances that has already, as of the point of this video, is kicked in at this point. You're supposed to close the loan before December 1st. At this point, with how backed up title companies are going to be, there is no way you can do that. So essentially, it's like an extra 0.5% penalty or something like that if you do a rate and term refinance. If you guys are confused about rate and term refinance, what do I mean by that? That just means you're doing a refinance where all you're doing is changing the rate. You're not pulling cash out of the property. You're not doing anything fancy. You're just changing the rate of the loan. And it generally restretches out 30 years, which of course helps reduce the size. The last thing I think I should get into is how my rooming houses have been. During this pandemic, You would have thought rooming houses would have been pretty tough to rent at this time, but I haven't actually found that. I have a couple theories on this. My major theory is most of the people I put in these rooming houses are young professionals, so generally like 20s and 30s. And my theory, I don't know this to be a fact, but my theory is most young people kind of find themselves to be like what they feel is immune to the virus. Or at least if they get it, it's no big deal. And so they're okay with being in a house with 5 strangers. And so I would have thought that my rooming houses would have taken a big blow on this one. That was the theory we were going in with this, but they've been perfectly fine. There's been a lot of interest. Actually, if anything, my tenants have bonded together because they were all sort of stuck with each other in a house. And so it made it where they actually all love being around each other. They turned into families that like are now posting pictures of all of themselves on the fridge, and they're having like picnics and barbecues. So it's kind of funny. If anything, the pandemic kind of helped because now the tenants keep renewing their leases because they want to stay around each other. So the rooming houses have been perfectly great. I think that's one thing that kind of came out as an advantage of this pandemic. So yeah, all of that has been perfectly fine. If anything, because I only invest in single family homes and such, for the most part, I'm fine. When I say single family homes, I'm also adding in duplexes, triplexes. What I'm saying is I don't have any like massive big buildings with 28 units or whatever, 100 units. I don't have any of those. So I don't have it where like, my tenants are paying for all these amenities they're not receiving or anything like that. Everyone's getting exactly what they're paying for during this pandemic. So it hasn't really been necessarily a problem. So if any of you are curious about how I'm doing in this pandemic, that is pretty much all of it. And I'll keep you all updated on videos going forward. I will be posting more of them in these last 2 months. I actually have been studying to become a realtor, so you'll be seeing a status update on that very soon. And that's pretty much how I've been operating. If you all have any questions, I will be commenting in the comment section. I know I haven't been doing that lately, but I will be posting again in the comment section to show you, answer all your questions and help you all with your real estate journey. So I'll talk to you all very soon.